When I think about closeness to God, the first thing that I think about is family. Now that might sound strange, but I want you to bear with me for a second here. The reason that's the first thing that I think of is the family relationship is the first example of what either healthy or unhealthy relationships look like that we see as people. So my first question to you is, what example of relationships were you shown in your family? What examples of relationships were you shown in your family? Were they healthy or were they unhealthy? Now, the relationships that we have with our family can set the tone for the rest of our relationships in our lives. So, with thinking of your story, what relationships did you have and what did they teach you? What did you learn in those? Because those will drastically affect the rest of the relationships from that point forward. So for your entire life, you could have looked at relationships in a different lens because of what you experienced in those first relationships that you were shown. We all have family members in our lives that we don't see very often. You know, you may see them at a wedding or a funeral or at some random birthday party throughout the year, but there's not really any intentionality behind the getting together. It's kind of, you just see them at these random places. There's not a ton of relationship behind it. It's just, you kind of see each other at these random occurrences throughout the year. You know, I think if we were honest and we pulled apart this feeling more, and we've really talked about it, what we would see is that we see these family members at places of obligation. You know, you're obligated to show they're up to this family event, and that's where you see this family member. And I think if we're not careful, what we can see is that obligation mentality can seep into our relationship with God. And our relationship with God moves from wanting to be in relationship with Him into more of an obligation side of things. My relationship with God is an obligation. It's a thing I have to check off of my list. It's things I have to do. I have to read the Bible. I have to pray. I have to do these things. These are things that are required of me. But what we need to do is take our relationship from obligation and not just base our relationship on obligation, but base it on the simple fact that we want to know God more. So where are you at in your relationship with God? Is it obligation, or is your relationship more based on the fact that you want to see and know God more? You know, we see those family members once a year, maybe a couple times more. Is that what your relationship with God is like? Do you kind of only see Him every once in a while? Or do you see Him more than that? And I'll be honest, I go through seasons, and my answer to these questions change. We build our relationship with God out of obligation, not from a desire to know Him. Maybe life looks different for you. Maybe you have family members and friends that are close to you, like you're together, you see each other regularly, but your relationship just isn't that deep. Now, there are a lot of things that can lead to that relationship not being that deep, but at least one that I've seen in my life and seen in some of the lives of the people around us is that there's a disconnect between people, and it kind of leads to a breaking apart of a relationship, and there's that disconnect that happens. Now, when that disconnect happens, there's a lot of different things that can cause it, but I'm going to use a blanket term here to cover a lot of them, and the blanket term that I'm going to use is called past hurt. Past hurt is one of the biggest roadblocks to intimacy, and it's one of the biggest roadblocks in relationships. I'm going to say that again. Past hurt is one of the biggest roadblocks in relationships. Past hurt is one of the biggest roadblocks in relationships. So I want you to think back to a relationship that you had, whether it's a friendship, a family member, whatever it is. Was there a time in your life where you guys came apart and you weren't friends anymore? Do you remember what caused it? I feel like if we took some time and we thought about that, what we would see, and if we took the time to think internally about it, and we kept thinking back about it, eventually what we would find is that at some point there was a hurt that happened in that relationship and it caused the divide. That same thing can happen with your relationship with God. I'm not saying God does something that hurts you. What I am saying is that sometimes there's things that happen in our lives that whether it's you're praying for something to happen and something else happens instead of that, that's different than what you looked for, or whether you're praying and praying and praying for a promotion, whether it's a healing, whatever it is, and it just doesn't come through. That might not be God hurting you, but a lot of times in those moments that can feel like hurt. And what did I just say a few minutes ago? Unresolved hurt is the biggest roadblock in relationships. So in your relationship with God, is there unresolved hurt? Is there areas, and has there been times in your life where you've looked for God to do something and you felt like He didn't answer or He wasn't there? Is there a disconnect? I want you to take some time, if there is, and I want you to try to trace back to that point where that disconnect happened from. Where did it come from? What started it? Was there one particular moment, or was it the accumulation of a couple of moments that led to that disconnect? But if you're feeling disconnected, I want you to spend some time and try to figure out what caused it. This brings us to our last group of people, and that's the people that you are living in relationships, you found community, you have people around you that you can be real with and that you can share life with. And my only encouragement / question to you is the depth that you're sharing life with other people, is that the same depth that you're sharing life with God with? Are you that as deep with God as you are with other people? Now, don't get me wrong, community is super healthy and community is awesome and it's good to go to great depths with people. But you want to make sure that the depth you're going with God is equally as deep as the depth you're going with people. If all you're ever doing is pouring out your deepest, darkest pains and secrets to the people around you and not pouring them out to your Savior, you're going to be in trouble. But again, if you're that person that's in that community where right now things are healthy and things are awesome, that's great. I want to encourage you to reach out to the people around you that you know aren't there, the people that are struggling right now, the people that are working on their relationship with God, the people that have those hurts that they need to work through, that maybe you can help them figure out what that point is that disconnect stems from. So again, I want to encourage you, don't do life alone, do it with others. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. For anybody that is in any of the positions that we've listed or any other positions that we haven't listed in this video, I want to ask you to join together with me and join together with other people and pray that people, as they walk through this relationship with God, that they would draw closer to Him. So take some time this week. I'm just going to ask you to make that your prayer, that people would know God more and know God deeper. I hope you guys have a great week. I want to thank you for checking out this video. The fact that you would take the time to sit and watch this whole video means a lot to me. So thank you for that. And this isn't going to be the last video. This is just going to be the first. This is something new that I'm trying out, and I can't wait to see everything that comes from this. Have a great week.